Michael, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Fantastic to have you. And just a reminder, if you are watching us on YouTube or in the metaverse, you can send some questions to us. Just leave a comment on YouTube or go to our Discord channel and I will ask them to Michael later on in the panel. But first, Michael, you said recently that this entire crypto crash could be a good thing for Bitcoin. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think if you look at the entire crypto universe, you have a lot of different creatures. You have crypto commodities, you have crypto securities, you have crypto exchanges, you have cryptocurrencies. And then you have a set of applications and protocols that interlace with all of these instruments. And what you have is a bunch of people in the ecosystem that don't necessarily understand or have the information to make the best decisions. And you have a lot of people outside of the ecosystem that are afraid to enter the ecosystem because they don't have the clarity they need. So for example, what's a currency? Well, a stable coin is a currency. In theory, if I can move $1 million from me to you without incurring a tax bill, that looks like a currency. A stable euro, a stable yen, a stable dollar. There's a huge amount of demand for it. There's probably $1 trillion to $5 trillion of demand for it. Everybody wants it. However, you have 3 different types of stable coins off the top of your head. You could have stable coins that are backed one for one with dollars, and they look fairly secure. You could have if you saw $10 billion of that stable coin with $10 billion of currency equivalents backing it, or cash equivalents backing it, then that's something that you probably could trust and put a lot of weight on. There's another set of stable coins that are backed by something. Let's say maybe they're backed by equities or they're backed by debt, and maybe I build a stable coin with $10 billion of junk bonds backing it. Not quite as, and the $10 billion of junk bond, maybe I have $10 billion of real estate backing a stable coin. They're not liquid, they're not mark to market. It's still something tangible, less tangible. And then the third stable coin would be, I just issued $10 billion of stable coins with nothing backing. They're all quote unquote stable coins. But one of them, like UST, collapsed to zero because it literally didn't have anything backing it, or maybe the backing was 5%. It might have been backed 5 or 10%. I don't think they had $18 billion worth of cash equivalents, so they probably didn't have $18 billion of real estate or junk bonds backing when they got to 18 billion. They had $18 billion worth of Luna, right? And so what you have there was something highly risky, but not perceived as risky because there's not really clear disclosures. And if you'd asked 1,000 people, what's the difference between UST and Tether and Circle, they couldn't tell you. So this crash is going to cause a lot of clarity to form there. First, the community is getting educated, right? Good. But if you had actually tried to redeem $7 billion of UST in a couple of days, well, people tried to do that and they couldn't. So I think the industry got educated, but also I think that there's a lot of people that would like to issue stable coins, like Caitlin Long's bank would like to issue stable coins. And if you look at the banks like Silvergate and Signature, they're FDIC insured banks, but they can't issue stable coins. And if you look at JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, they can't issue stable coins. Now, if you roll the clock back 6 months, the president's working group put out a memo on stable coins. And when they put out the memo, they said, we'd like for FDIC institutions to issue stable coins. Now, putting aside whether you agree with that or not, there's been a regulatory deadlock on Capitol Hill, because in the 6 months after they put out that memo saying they think that banks should issue stablecoins, no bank issued a stablecoin. And that's because the president's working group memo said, well, Congress should pass the law making this clear. And until then, we'll think of it this way. So the banks are waiting for Congress to pass the law. Congress didn't pass the law. And all the way up until last month, there's really no clear consensus to move on this. And we didn't expect any clear legislation or regulation before 2023 or 2024. So I think that if we just take the example of stable coins, that crypto crash and the UST crash has simultaneously educated the existing crypto market and all the investors. It's also introduced, the concept of risk. There are different, not everything is equal, right? There are 19,500 things, on coin market cap, but they're not all equal. So to say, well, this is risk-free or that is, they all have different flavors of risk, but how do you assess the risk? That the industry's getting more sophisticated. I think that the regulators now have some pressure. The Secretary of the Treasury was in a congressional hearing with Senator Toomey, and he's been an advocate of some stablecoin legislation. And he asked her, you think we need to get it done this year? And she said, yeah, I think we can and should get it done this year. So the consensus among the regulators and the politicians is, yeah, we probably need to do this. Now, you could say, if you're the crypto anarchist, I hate regulators, I don't want them to do anything. That's one way to view it, but as long as they don't do anything, the industry stays $1 trillion. Yeah, we know the crypto economy's here to stay. We can't custody it yet. We're afraid to custody these assets. Like we're not allowed, his actual words were, we're not allowed to. And if I speak to CEOs of publicly traded companies and banks, like publicly traded banks, they'll say, our regulators won't let us. So you see the conundrum here, which is you could either stay in a regulatory gray zone where there's about 1% of the money. You can be 1 or 2% of what you're going to be, and you can stay in the gray zone. Or you can create a clear public policy framework, and then you move into this compliant zone. And when Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan enter the space, they'll issue $500 billion of stable coin, trillions of dollars. And so you'll go from 150 billion to 1.5 trillion. And when they start issuing in that size, you'll see Amazon and Google and Microsoft using stable coin for international remittance and corporate remittance. And then you'll see it get built into Apple Pay and Google Pay and Amazon as a payment method, right? And then you will actually see billions of people using this stuff instead of hundreds of millions or tens of millions.
Saylor, MicroStrategy CEO, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's been fascinating talking to you and hearing your perspectives.
Yeah, wishing everybody the best.
Thank you very much.